Quiet on set, and roll sound.
Sound speed.
And slating.
I don't think my art is so much about traveling in terms of the real world, but traveling to those places that sit just outside our peripheral vision. There's no creativity without play, so I go into the studio and I play. When you work with lots of different materials, experimentation is the key. You can't know beforehand what it's going to look like. In fact, it's a huge advantage not to. Ideas and images are always floating through my head. It's really a matter of grabbing them, plucking them out of the air, making them make some kind of sense by joining them together. There's something about stamps. I just can't resist them. I have a fascination for stuff, whether it be paper ephemera or found objects. I don't always know how I'm going to use it. I'll find something, take it home, and maybe it sits on the shelf or in a drawer for 3 years. It's those little tiny wandering figures and characters and objects that somehow seem to drift in or crawl in or tunnel their way in until they're actually sitting there on the painting. I quite like the idea that my dream characters are shared with other people, that there is a central arena where these characters move and live, and that I'm on the outside, just looking in. We speak of having dreams, but maybe it's dreams that have us.
I've always worked with pop culture, whether it was through magazines or fiction or whatever art I do. Very clearly remember is, I think 1969, 1970, looking up pop art in the World Book Encyclopedia, and they had Tomato Soup Can by Warhol and like Wham by Roy Lichtenstein. And I look at the Wham and I looked at the word tomato. I've never been able to look at words the same way again. To me, the word is what it means, but also what it looks like, and you can't divorce the two. The written equivalent of that is maybe words that sound like what they are, like lullaby or chime or clank or something like that. And pop was certainly the bridge into my relationship with words that way. To have gone to art school in the last 2 decades of the 20th century, the Warhol influence is just unassailable. It's massive, and he opened up so many doors to so many people, myself included. You can't even begin to repay, the debt. So, yeah, he's important to me. I never left art school. I've stayed in art school my entire life. I gave up trying to pigeonhole what I do a long, long time ago. I think basically when I wake up in the morning, I've got 2 hours of word time, and then 2 hours of shape time, and then 2 hours of flatness, whether that's words or something on a surface. And writing, when you get it right, is like the best drug on earth. It's fantastic. But the thing about making an object, and it's self-evident, but it still has to be said, is that you had something that was up here, and then through operating this medium that we call the world and time, it's here. And it's like abracadabra, how did that happen? And the most satisfaction happens when what's up here and what's here are the exact same thing. It's like getting 3 cherries in a row in Las Vegas. It's just wow, it's a great feeling. I think we are entering this weird period right now where pop is, if not dead, certainly dying. I mean, there'll always be pop, but I don't know if there always will be a pop.
What we try to do is collapse the boundaries between traditionally defined architectural thinking and industrial design. The point of departure for the project is a depository of very old beams that my client had reclaimed from a series of warehouses. The immediate impulse is to clean them up and cut them down to lengths that we could work with. We made a decision to keep the beams exactly as they are. What came out of that is the need to develop a geometry that's able to accommodate different lengths of beams and make them into some sort of coherent and inhabitable space. And what came out of that is a decision to work with triangles, because triangle remains a triangle no matter how small or large each of its tangents is. Once you sort of establish a set of parameters for the project, in this case the triangular geometry, you must be rigorous in applying the rules that you yourself have established. On a basic level, we try to think of objects as companions in people's lives. If we start thinking of the objects in our lives as companions, it's a really radical transformation of the way we live. The house has become a test to see if we can apply the ideas that we've been working with at the scale of an object to an inhabited space.
I'm Alex.
I'm Courtney.
And we are Organelle Design.
We focus on repurposing found items and off-the-shelf objects. The Go Gallery is a collaboration between Organelle Design, a Sear studio, and Rural Urban Fantasy Project.
The initial concept was to create a canopy over this hidden courtyard,
which would allow light to come through onto the umbrellas.
The engineering of it is quite intensive.
It's this small to the scale of an entire courtyard. One of the strongest assets of Organelle Design is that we both design and we also get our hands dirty and build it.
It's no secret that you can only learn so much sitting behind a computer drafting. You're out there actually working with these materials, they take on a new meaning for you and designing for the future. We're about 10 days away from the opening.
There's a lot of work that needs to happen between now and then.
But we're optimistic, we're definitely optimistic.
Since day one, Alex and I have envisioned our lives as not only partners in life, but partners in work. Our ideas about architecture and design have been parallel, have been aligned.
It's kind of like one step at a time, and we persevered. We're pretty happy with the outcome.
The final result of these floating lanterns and creating the sort of ceiling on this incredibly special, sort of forgotten place is exactly what we wanted.
What was exciting for me as a dance critic is that they're taking those styles that we've seen before, the hip-hop, the urban, the jazz, but they're making it so contemporary, and they're mashing it into this new form that truly is a hybrid. That, to me, is exciting because that means we're seeing a new form. We're just seeing something so fresh.
They're a good ensemble, so that makes things easy. They're very used to working together and working in unison together, so it starts off from a very clean place.
What has impressed me about what they do is the movement invention, and that's, I guess, why they could be an important influence to dance, because they are creating complex movement in time and space. They're not just doing hip-hop, just doing street dance without thinking it through.
Can I see it from just, you're in the clump and Sasha's just joined the group?
When you go to their shows, well, you're seeing all kinds of different people that don't go out to dance. It's not just other dancers seeing the 605 shows. What they're doing is something different. I mean, that plays out on stage too. That's why you're seeing something different, because they are doing it in a collaborative way, which till now you haven't seen that much of it in the dance world.
This new series is called Sacred and Secular. I've been working on it for about the past year and a half. The first image I took was in 2008. I think in total I've been to about 8 countries in about 30 cities. It's sort of a distillation of everything I've been doing since the year 2000. The format of the earlier drift work kind of formed the foundation, the structure for the images, and the techniques that I used in the Shorelines work, the long exposures, and the early morning evening shots were sort of combined to create all the new work. The decision to go to 8x10 was based on years of making images with smaller formats, seeing them on the wall, and always being disappointed with the results. There is no digital camera on Earth yet that can match the quality of an 8x10. I've taken photographs my whole life. You do it for yourself for so long, you just want the work to get better. And I think when you put it before the public and when people see them and they react to them, I think in a way that tends to make the work better.
His new work that he's been doing as a solo artist is much more wider than I would have expected. I mean, you think of Holy Body Tattoo as body slamming and stuff like that, but he's going into some kind of deep places.
Le processus de vision impure venait d'un désir personnel de vouloir m'orienter dans une direction finalement différente de Holy Body Tattoo. We've used film elements to enhance what you can actually really capture on stage.
I really feel like he is finding new places to go, and in a way, he's just starting that process. I don't know how he feels, but physically, he looks much younger than he is probably.
Last week I lost a lot of weight. I got really sick when I went back to Vancouver. I got the H1N1 flu. I got pneumonia. My body is okay. I'm just really tired and stiff. I feel I don't have yet a lot of stamina because of the dance. I'm sore, my neck, my knees, I had a surgery. I have 2 more shows, and then I have 4 more next week. You know, it's that borderline of going, oh God, I can't do this anymore, and that place where you go, it's where the work is, you know, and that's where also, that's what we do it. You know, you go this, moments like this, they just change you. They just remind you of humanity. It's just really big.
The art apartment began with an idea based on what I do for work. I'm a partner in a construction company. A big part of our job is taking things and remodeling them and throwing things away. As you're working over time, you find these little gems, these sort of like little historic moments. And after a while, I started just to collect this stuff just at random. And the more I kept thinking about it, I thought, well, what can I do with it? And stuff started to find a shape in terms of like what decade it came from. That you could kind of tell, well, this is from this era or that era. I imagined the Vancouver Art Gallery as a great location for it in terms of having that much space. It's vertical for about 80 or 90 feet in there, and the piece is about 70 feet high. The period of time it took from the original concept of the idea was probably about 3 years, maybe a little bit more, with 2 years of that being really heavily invested in actually doing the piece, like 1 year to collect it, you know, with a year before that, and then a year to build it, and a month to install it. I think for a lot of people, it made them think a little bit about design and consumerism in terms of it being all-encompassing in the 1950s, the first floor, and the way it integrated into the architecture. You go up the stairs, and the stairs had shag carpeting. And so it was this real push and pull between the actual architecture of the gallery and the architecture of the piece. The integration, I think, is where those kind of details really captured people. I think the way you lay space out has a big effect on people psychologically, and I think that's what people were keen into.
I never truly felt like a man until a woman called me baby. And maybe that's why we agreed to say fare thee well, love, with just a kiss. So you opened my mouth like an envelope, unfolded my tongue like a letter, studied my mind like it was the mail. As I played the blind man with my fingers, feeling your goosebumps thyself for the winter, I read your thoughts like Braille.
I always get nervous before performances. My granddad, he said to me, say you have an audience of 100 people. That's a 200-eyed monster waiting for you to screw up. You can't walk up onto a stage and expect respect.
There's beauty in the obvious, and your belly button, that's where you started. That's where
I get email messages from guys saying, like, you've saved our marriage. You've saved, like, I mean, you know, like, rekindled our sex life. And it's like, what is this going? I was like, why is this working for everyone else but me?
Right now, let me study. She smiled and said, you're lucky. This is a take-home test, boy.
It's an important step that a spoken word group got an award at a music show.
The winner is Shane Koizan and their short story long.
I'll accept this on behalf of my granddad, who, when I told him he wanted to be when I wanted to be a poet for a living, he said, that's good, that's good. It's time you start thinking about losing weight. I love what I do, and I've always wanted to have one of those moments where it's like, I won't be around for it, but someone in the world is gonna say, Shane Koizan said it best, and it's like, oh, so that's kind of like what I've worked towards. I want to be around at the right moment and say something true.
It reminds us who and where we are. It lives like a heart shaped like a jar that we hand to others and ask, can you open this for me? We always get the same answer. Not without breaking it. More often than sometimes. I said go for it. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you after the break.
My name is Blaine Thurier. In 1997, on this basketball court in East Vancouver, my best friend Carl Newman asked me to play keyboards in his new band, the New Pornographers. He's mixing our 5th album right now at the Carriage House in Connecticut. Those are like on the 2 ends. And 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3.
Carl Newman was at JCDC Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, run by John Collins and David Carswell, and he put together a demo, and it had one Nico K singing. And I remember hearing this demo, and it was the most amazing thing.
We thought we were going to be local sensations because everybody immediately loved us. Yeah. And then our 2nd and 3rd shows, we realized everybody didn't love us, that we weren't local sensations.
When rocker Biff Naked was on the Jay Leno show, I was excited. So I was so crazy when the New Pornographers made it to the David Letterman show.
Sometimes I look at other bands that I love with envy. Yeah. But then I think, well, I could never be that band. They're them and I'm me, and all you can do is try and chase what you do fairly well. Everybody has like favorite bands that made albums they love and then they became terrible. And you think, how did that happen? How did you slide from being amazing to being terrible? And I think, will I know? Will I know when I become terrible? Am I terrible right now? Have I always been terrible?
And the great thing about Carl, and I think people like himself for songwriters, is I don't think they really need this success, although I think he's really happy to have it. He's going to keep on doing those tunes, and we're going to keep on enjoying them. And that's the great thing about people from Vancouver. It doesn't matter if you got the success. You're still going to keep doing it. You're still going to keep writing it, because we're from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
We've got the most real estate of anybody. Look at that. Our name must be 6 inches longer than Death Cap's. If not a foot.
I usually pick up the parts maybe 2-3 weeks before, and then we can look at them at home.
When I first look at it, it's a matter of getting to know the piece as well as learning to play it.
You get a feel for what it's going to be like in the rehearsal.
First rehearsal, I think it went really well.
You know, very quickly learn who it's necessary to listen to.
A lot of my job is supporting the other instruments. Luckily, in the MPO, the players are fantastic.
The NBO is an evolution. Certainly there's a huge emphasis on commissioning new works from Canadian composers and showcasing Canadian performers, which is a great thing in my opinion.
The difference between playing in a small orchestra and a big orchestra, you have almost a more direct connection with the other musicians.
It's fun, and these pieces are very interesting too. You don't often get to play pieces like this.